Millionaire discovers unexpected love in a poor girl at a bus stop, an incredible transformation. Jack Thompson stood under the gray sky, rain tracing the contours of his tailored coat as he waited for his luxury car to fetch him from the curb. His life, a kaleidoscope of success, wealth, acknowledgement, connections, lay sprawling behind him like the glittering skyline of San Francisco. Yet, even amidst the metallic sheen of his achievements, a relentless emptiness gnawed at him. What was it all for? With every dubious deal closed and innovation launched, he felt the distance between himself and something real deepen. Success had staked its claim on his soul, leaving him feeling like a lonely island, cut off from the connections that once mattered. The bus stop was a gray zone where the polished world of tech collided with the gritty pulse of the city. That's where he met her, Sarah, a waitress, her apron stained, but her spirit bright. She was spinning tales of resilience, recounting battles waged with overwhelming odds. Her laughter, an unexpected melody, cut through the fog of his discontent. Jack found himself captivated not by her hardships, but by her refusal to let them silence her. It was authentic, messy, and yet, so vibrantly alive that it made his heart race with an unfamiliar thrill. As Jack's high-end lifestyle dragged him into exclusive events and curated experiences, Sarah's world felt more vivid than the glossy magazines he read. He enjoyed introducing her to extravagant dinners, but behind every cucumber sandwich and champagne toast, a question loomed large in his mind: did the luxury deter her, push her away, or was it something else? Guilt crept in, wrapping around him as he wore the facade of happiness. Who was he trying to impress? Lost in this lavish paradigm, Jack confronted a moral dilemma that felt suffocating. Was he simply a charitable benefactor in her eyes, reduced to an account balance meant to alleviate her burdens? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Tension escalated at a lavish event when his circle of affluent friends made snide comments about Sarah's working-class roots. Each jab felt like a knife, wounding Jack's heart. He hesitated, torn between old loyalties and the burgeoning love he felt for her, that, for the first time, made his bank account seem irrelevant. Would standing up for her cost him his socially elite status? A fire kindled within him, a battle against centuries of classism and expectation. His exhaled breath became shallow as he wrestled with the gnawing anxiety of sudden awareness, leaving him trembling. Fear intertwined with determination as he questioned what his choice would reveal about himself. In a precarious state of mind, Jack realized material gestures would do nothing to mend this fracture between their worlds. The implications of each decision began to weigh heavily, darkening his thoughts. Could the love he felt for Sarah withstand the societal stigma that lingered in the shadows? What if it became another casualty of privilege and expectation? As he stood on the precipice of this choice, anguish threatened to pull him under, leaving him yearning for clarity in a storm of confusion. The next steps could either unite them or scatter their connection to the winds of fate, and Jack felt the bittersweet truth simmering beneath the surface. His heart wasn't just at stake, it was a collision of two realities, each demanding their claim on his soul. The car finally pulled up, and Jack slid inside, the leather seats caressing him in false familiarity. The driver exchanged polite nods, but Jack's mind was far from the comforts of wealth. Images of Sarah filled his thoughts: the way her hair danced in the breeze, how her eyes lit up while recounting stories of childhood trials. For a fleeting moment, the pulsating discontent of his life receded. Arriving home, he was engulfed by the ambience of opulence, the very surroundings he had curated. Furniture pieces whispered elegance, and the stunning view of the city skyline from his penthouse felt even more hollow. Anxiety gnawed at him deeper than the impending shadow of loneliness. It was a revelation that struck him with clarity. Jack couldn't continue compartmentalizing his emotions. The contrast between the life he led and the world Sarah inhabited reflected a chasm that he could no longer ignore. After a restless night, Jack sat on the edge of his plush bed, wrestling with the reality of his situation. He realized it was not merely about the differences between them, it was about his own evolving perception of self-worth. The previous night's exchanges with his friends lingered in the air, taunting him. Their laughter felt like shards of glass, each remark cutting deeper, forcing him to question every choice he had made to fit within that elite social group. He grabbed his phone, staring at Sarah's number, wondering how he could connect without the barriers he'd erected. Could he convey to her that he didn't want to be a patron but a partner? With a deep breath, he tapped the screen to send a message. But then hesitated, his hand trembling as the implications of vulnerability crashed over him. What if she didn't see him as worthy? What if he was merely a fleeting convenience, a momentary escape from her reality? Determination surged. He opted for openness, drafting a text that was raw and genuine. "I'm sorry if I ever made you feel less than precious," he typed, each word drawing from the depths of his soul. "I want to understand your world better. I want to be part of your life wholly, not just the glamorous aspects." With a deep breath, he hit send, the weight lifting slightly off his chest as he realized that this moment marked a turning point. It was a small step toward honest dialogue, and he felt a surge of excitement mixed with dread. Could he navigate the waters of their vastly different realities? Jack didn't have all the answers, but the desire to bridge the gap ignited a new vision for his future. Days slipped by while he waited, oscillating between anxiety and anticipation as he considered what Sarah's response would entail. Was she waiting for him to act? Or had the chasm he felt between them grown too wide? His phone buzzed late one evening with a message from her. Heart racing, Jack opened it timidly, unsure of what he would find. "Jack, your world is so different from mine. But I believe there's beauty in that. Let us meet somewhere that's ours." Hope flared brightly, and Jack felt buoyed by her words. This was the moment to step beyond fear and expectation. Yet within this burgeoning optimism, a shadow lurked. What would it take to truly meld those two worlds? Each facet of his persona, corporate titan, socialite, newfound romantic, was still wrestling within him, and the greatest challenge had yet to unfold. As he prepared for their meeting, Jack pondered one pivotal question: could love truly conquer the silent boundaries set by society, or would he find himself alone again in the end? Jack stood by the window of his penthouse, the city sprawling beneath him like an intricate, shining puzzle. Each light blinked like a myriad of possibilities, but the one that mattered most was still nestled deep in his heart. He replayed Sarah's words, they resonated within him, echoing truths that he had long denied. There was beauty in their differences, he could feel it. Yet he remained tethered to his past, the heavy expectations of wealth clinging to him like a shroud that he spent the hours leading up to their meeting meticulously planning. First, he considered the venue. A trendy, upscale cafe would undoubtedly impress, but would it resonate with Sarah? Images of rustic parks and vibrant street corners flashed through his mind, places where the footsteps of the everyday mixed freely with art and laughter. This wasn't merely about impressing her, it was about breaking down the walls that separated them. With a newfound resolve, he settled on a small art gallery cafe downtown, intimate and charming, a place where they could truly connect. As he dressed, Jack caught his reflection in the mirror. He saw the shadows beneath his eyes, hints of sleepless nights spent grappling with self-doubt. He dressed deliberately, opting for a simple yet polished look, one that reflected more of his true self and less of the image he had meticulously crafted. He hoped to project an honesty that might reach Sarah, a sign that he was earnest in wanting to embrace her world. Arriving at the gallery, an air of nervous excitement enveloped him. The scent of freshly brewed coffee and the distant hum of conversation welcomed him. He spotted Sarah almost immediately, a beacon of warmth among the cold metal sculptures surrounding her. She was captivating, her attire simple yet radiating a kind of unguarded grace that highlighted the stark contrast between them. As they greeted each other, Jack felt apprehensive, an odd sensation for someone used to confidently stepping into boardrooms. Their exchange began slowly, small talk about the art that surrounded them, but he sensed an unerring need to plunge deeper, to unveil the vulnerabilities they both harbored. He steered the conversation towards subjects that mattered, discussing dreams and fears. "Jack," she said, her tone shifting mid-sentence, "I appreciate that you want to understand my world better, but how will you reconcile the expectations that come with your life? It's not just me that we're dealing with." Her question sliced right through him. It was a reality he had tried to avoid confronting, the tether to his corporate life that often kept him at bay from genuine connection. This was the crux of his dilemma: could he carve a new path, a life less dictated by wealth and status? "I'm starting to realize," Jack replied carefully, "that the world I've tried to build isn't where I find fulfillment. I want to break away from the confines of expectation." Her gaze softened, sparking a vulnerable exchange. They talked for hours, their conversation weaving through aspirations and the burdens of identity. Yet, as the sunlight shifted, casting long shadows, Jack could still feel the tension of unspoken truths lingering between them, anchored by their realities. They moved outside as twilight descended, joining the city in its quieter moments. Jack's heart raced as he contemplated how he would answer her through action, not just words. He needed to show her he could step into her world without losing himself entirely, but as they stood on the street corner, an indefinable pressure gripped him. Could he truly leave behind the expectations of his past, or would he forever be defined by his surroundings? With uncertainty gnawing at him, he took a breath, feeling the weight of the moment. The ambient noise of the city faded, leaving only the question hanging in the warm evening air, echoing his thoughts: was he ready to redefine himself? As Sarah turned to lead him onward, the growing awareness that this meeting could change everything loomed large. Yet, it dawned on him that the real challenge was not about merging their worlds, it was learning to embrace the man he wished to become. With each step they took into the vibrant nightlife around them, Jack realized that the journey toward understanding would only just begin, forcing him to confront the most significant barriers within himself. What awaited him on that path remained cloaked in ambiguity. Would he rise to the challenge or falter beneath the weight of his transformations? Jack could feel the electric dance of the city surrounding him, each footstep reverberating with a mix of anticipation and dread. The chill of the evening seemed to seep into his bones, amplifying the internal struggle that persisted in the depths of his mind. As they walked, the chatter of the bustling nightlife swelled around them, yet he felt isolated in his thoughts. Where to next? Sarah asked, her enthusiasm pulling him momentarily from his thoughts. He caught her smile, warm and inviting, yet within him stirred a tempest of self-doubt. Could he genuinely engage in the authenticity she represented? Jack paused, grappling with the reality he was stepping into. "I want to explore what's beyond the art. The life, the people, the stories." She tilted her head, curiosity piqued. "You mean a chance to experience it all firsthand? Not just as an observer?" "Yes," he replied, the word solidifying his resolve. "I want to understand what it is to be part of it, not just financially distanced from it." They entered a small gallery adorned with local artists' work, the walls alive with color and emotion. Sarah's eyes lit up as she moved towards a painting bursting with vibrant hues, a reflection of despair and hope intertwined. "What do you see in it?" she asked, encouraging him to engage with the art in a new way. Jack studied the piece, his mind swirling with thoughts he hadn't yet expressed. "I see someone who struggles, yet reaches for something beyond themselves. It's a fight between who they are and who they want to be." "Exactly," she said, her enthusiasm infectious. "That's the essence of art. It's layered, just like us." Her words lingered in the air, and Jack recognized their relevance to his journey. He too was layered, trapped beneath expectations yet yearning for sincerity. But would he have the courage to peel back those layers? With that thought came a moment of clarity. He wasn't merely an observer any longer, he was an active participant. His profession had been about understanding numbers, profits, and losses, the metrics of wealth. But now, it was about connection, understanding wounds and triumphs, the subtleties of human experience. Tonight was the beginning of his metamorphosis. He decided he would commit to unearthing these layers, not just with Sarah, but within himself. He wanted to know what lay beyond the suit, a man driven by passion instead of just profit. As they moved deeper into the gallery, Jack felt compelled to take a risk. He turned to Sarah, his heart pounding. "Can you help me? I want to learn more about the community, the artists behind these works. I want to know their stories, understand the connection between art and life." The gravity of his request hung between them, a bridge reaching toward the unknown, both thrilling and intimidating. What if she laughed, feeling he was out of touch? What if he lost her in his quest for meaning? Her eyes softened, and for a moment, he saw the potential for profound connection. "I'd love to, but it won't be easy," she warned. "It's not just about visiting the local spots. It's about being wholly present and listening." Jack nodded, feeling the weight of her words. Listening. He had spent so much of his life speaking, presenting corporate strategies, leading meetings. Now he needed to be open, vulnerable, and involved in the stories of others. He held her gaze, determination solidifying within him. "I'm ready to listen." As their conversation deepened, the world around them began to blur. He realized he had stepped into the unknown, and it was both exhilarating and terrifying. Yet, with every word she spoke, the chains tethering him to his past began to loosen, shedding layers of expectation he had clung to for far too long. As they walked back into the night, Jack felt a sense of empowerment grow within him, but the question loomed larger than before: how far was he willing to go to redefine himself? Would he truly dedicate himself to a path that might lead him away from all he previously knew? Heart pounding with anticipation, he stepped forward, excitement battling the fear of losing everything he had understood. He was ready to confront the reality of those choices, a decision that could unravel his entire identity. As they approached a vibrant street fair filled with music and laughter, Sarah paused, her eyes scanning the scene ahead. "What do you say, Jack? Ready for a leap into the chaos?" He took a breath and smiled. "Absolutely. Let us dive in." Would this act of bravery be his first step toward discovering a completely new Jack, or would he become lost in the tumult? Jack stepped into the street fair, the cacophony of sounds washing over him like a wave of vibrant energy. His senses were heightened, the smell of fried food mingled with cotton candy filled the air, while the sights of colorful lights and joyful smiles danced all around him. But beneath this enchanting exterior lay the weight of his internal struggle. How could he merge this new perspective with the life he had constructed? "Look at all these people," Sarah said, her voice bubbling with excitement. "Let us lose ourselves for a while." Jack nodded, though a knot in his stomach tightened. As exhilarating as it was to embrace this chaos, the prospect of opening up in such a public arena felt monumental. Sarah pulled him towards a stall where a group of young musicians played jazz, swaying effortlessly to the rhythm. The infectious energy coaxed a smile from Jack, igniting a flicker of the desire to be part of something larger, something raw and unfiltered. But with that came the daunting reality that he was still learning to let go of his inhibitions. "Dance," she urged playfully, eyes twinkling with mischief. "Maybe later," he replied, his feet cemented to the ground despite the upbeat music. The thought of dancing, of freely expressing himself in front of strangers, ignited self-doubt. What if he looked foolish? What if he rippled the thick barrier that had separated him from the vulnerability he now sought? "You're not just here to watch, remember?" Sarah challenged, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You said you wanted to experience it all." Her challenge hung in the air between them, vibrating with promise and fear. Jack hesitated, grappling with the tug-of-war inside him. This was not just an outing, it was a fundamental test of his commitment to transformation. "Okay," he finally conceded, loosening the tension in his shoulders. "Show me how it's done." With a laugh, she pulled him into the crowd, and he surrendered himself to the rhythm of the music. As he moved, the confines of his self-imposed armor began to crack. Strangers cheered and clapped, and in that whirlwind of joy, he felt a part of something genuine, something that transcended monetary value and societal expectations. For the first time in a while, he felt liberated. His laughter echoed with sincerity, a stark contrast to the rehearsed smiles of the corporate world. But as the night wore on, the thrill of dancing faded into a moment of silence. Jack noticed a young girl sitting by herself at the edge of the crowd, clutching a tattered notebook, her eyes soaking in the vivid scene. Something in her demeanor resonated with him, the same kind of longing for connection he had felt for too long. He moved towards her, feeling inexplicably drawn to her quiet presence. "Hey, what's your story?" he asked, the words slipping out before he could think. Startled, she looked up, her dark, expressive eyes revealing a depth of unspoken thoughts. "Just writing," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "I like to capture moments." Intrigued, Jack squatted down beside her, curiosity piqued. What kind of moments could she possibly want to capture among a sea of noise? "What do you see?" he pressed, catching the inkling of vulnerability in her gaze. The corners of her mouth curled into a shy smile. "Beauty. Sadness. Dreams." Her answers were simple yet profound, and they struck a chord inside him. He recognized that vulnerability. She spoke of a reflection of his own concealed desires for authenticity. As they exchanged words, Jack felt a shift. The girl's perspective opened another doorway to understanding that perhaps art was not only the brush strokes or the notes danced but also the unfiltered honesty exchanged between two souls. He discovered a hidden talent for listening, appreciating the simple truths that lay beneath her words, but with that revelation came an unexpected fear. Engaging with her meant allowing himself the risk of deeper connection, threading into the complexities of feeling and vulnerability he had avoided for so long. Jack remained kneeling beside her, contemplating the ramifications of this small interaction. Was he ready to embrace the unknown, even if it meant confronting his deeply ingrained fears? Sarah's laughter scooped him back to the present, reminding him that the night was still alive with potential. He turned to look back at her, a newfound determination awakening within him. The leap into chaos was not just about wild nights, it was about shaping his reality through every relationship he chose to nurture. As he stood up, ready to return to Sarah, he caught the girl's eye one last time. "Never stop capturing those moments," he said, a promise hanging in the air. She smiled, and with it came a flicker of hope, a shared understanding that perhaps they were both navigating the same beautiful, messy art of life. Jack took a deep breath, mentally girding himself for what lay ahead. Could he let this experience indelibly change him? And what of Sarah, whose immediate connection he now cherished? As he walked away, the rhythm of the fair pulsed around him, each beat calling him further into the uncharted territories of human experience. He didn't want to just redefine himself. He needed to uncover layers he didn't know existed. The real question now was, when would he be ready to confront the darker, unattended spaces of his past? The night was full of answers waiting to be chased. Jack approached Sarah, her laughter like an anchor, steadying him amidst the whirlwind of thoughts swirling in his mind. As they rejoined, he felt a palpable shift. The electricity of his earlier steps onto the dance floor lingered, igniting a passionate resolve within him. He realized this encounter with the girl had pushed him further than he expected. The way she captured moments, the beauty, the sadness reminded him how often he merely skimmed the surface, afraid to dive deeper. "So, what do you think?" Sarah asked, her eyes sparkling with mischief, never quite losing that joyful twinkle from earlier. Jack hesitated. "I think she sees things differently. There is something profound in the way she talks about capturing moments." "Did you capture one too?" she teased, nudging him with her shoulder. The metaphor lingered. Jack hadn't seen it that way. Instead, he had been so preoccupied with his self-imposed limitations that he had nearly missed a chance for connection, an opportunity to grow. "It wasn't just a moment, Sarah. It felt like an awakening. But it also raises questions. Can I really embrace what I experienced tonight? What does it mean to allow myself that vulnerability? Those questions are what make the experience meaningful," she replied, her voice softening, veering away from playful banter to deeper sincerity. "Growth isn't linear. You're allowed to have doubts. Just remember, vulnerability can be a strength." Jack nodded slowly, absorbing her words as they coursed through him. But the knot of fear returned. It was challenging to comprehend vulnerability as an asset when the past loomed like a shadow, tethering him to moments of hesitation and regret. The thought of drawing on those scars was unbearable. He had spent years constructing a wall where vulnerability felt like a foreign concept. What if I open up and get hurt? He murmured, almost to himself. Or what if you find more meaningful connections? Don't equate vulnerability with weakness. It can lead to discovering strength in ways you didn't think possible, she replied, her voice imbued with encouragement. Jack marinated on her insights. For the first time, he felt the weight of that wall he had painstakingly built begin to waver. Each interaction, like the one with the girl, chipped away at the facade he presented to the world, an armor meticulously crafted to keep others at bay. I've always been capable in a professional sense. But in my personal life, it feels like I'm stumbling through a dense fog. He looked deep into Sarah's eyes, searching for understanding. Part of me fears that allowing others in will expose my inadequacies, maybe even lead to them questioning my competence. A bemused expression crossed her face, her brow furrowing slightly. Isn't that what makes you relatable? No one is perfect. You have a wisdom that can only come from experience. It would be a disservice to keep it locked away. Engaging with people means learning from them as well. His heart raced at the prospect. It seemed like an awakening he never consciously sought, yet here it was. Emboldened by Sarah's words, Jack felt a flicker of determination rise within him. He could take control of this narrative. Embracing the intangible could be the key to redefining his existence. As they turned to leave the fair, Jack caught a final glimpse of the girl with the notebook, her gaze still entrenched in the vivid whirlwind of colors and sounds. The connection brewed within him a newly discovered resolve to seek deeper interactions, to influence the trajectory of his life positively. Yet, another thought bubbled to the surface. What would he do about the darkness lurking in his past? The unexamined shadows that threatened to arise as he ventured into sunlight? As Sarah led him away from the noise and lights, a challenge flickered in the depths of his mind. Who would he become if he chose to wrestle with that darkness? The desire to evolve burned fiercely within him, urging him to confront it head-on. Nothing less than the journey of becoming a better version of himself was at stake. But what would that confrontation entail? Determined and anxious, Jack was unprepared for how much his next choice could unravel, as well as reshape, everything he believed about himself. Would he embrace that journey with courage or allow the past to hold him captive? The night's revelations loomed over him, mixing exquisite anticipation with lingering uncertainty. As dawn broke over the city, Jack woke to the distant hum of life spilling into his apartment. The sunrise, an artfully composed blend of soft oranges and pinks, tugged gently at the corners of his mind, nudging him toward reflection. He sat up, unraveling last night's events, realizing a shift had occurred within him. The echoes of Sarah's words reverberated, compelling him to confront the shadows still lingering in the corners of his psyche. He brewed coffee, the rich aroma enveloping him, a stark contrast to the anxiety clinging to his thoughts. What would it truly mean to embrace vulnerability? As the liquid blackened and frothy cream turned it a warm brown, questions seeped into his mind. Would it dismantle the guarded persona he had meticulously crafted over the years? After sipping the first scalding gulp, a sudden resolve took root. Jack decided that today would mark the beginning of his exploration into the darker recesses of his heart. He reached for his phone and typed a tentative message to Sarah, asking if she'd meet him later for a walk. Her unwavering support offered a flicker of hope, a foundation for the vulnerability he sought to explore. The day unfolded slowly, each hour stretching out like the weary stretch of a cat awakening from a long nap. He found himself navigating through his work with a newfound energy, yet it was interspersed with moments of hesitation. Was he truly ready to face what lay in wait? The questions tangled within him like a ball of string, drawing tighter with each passing minute that he poured himself into tasks, trying to drown the persistent anxiety pulsing behind his sternum. Yet, with every achievement at work, he felt a nagging disappointment. He was accomplishing things methodically, but he questioned whether it was enough. This unyielding pursuit of success seemed hollow when compared to the transformative encounters he longed to seek outside the confines of spreadsheets and board meetings. finally, the moment arrived. He met Sarah at a nearby park. As they strolled, the sun bathed them in a warm glow, but Jack felt a prickling chill of anticipation. They settled onto a bench overlooking a small pond populated by ducks gliding effortlessly through the water. "All right, let us talk about it," Sarah encouraged, her eyes unwaveringly fixed on him, inviting him to share. Taking a deep breath, Jack began to speak, pulling back layers that had long encased his emotional core. "I've been good at creating a facade of confidence at work. People see me as capable, maybe even competent. But personally, I feel like an imposter." "Why?" Her tone was gently inquisitive. "What makes you feel that way?" "That wall I built," he paused, feeling the weight of years pressing down. "It's like a shield against my failures, my fears. If I let it down, I'm terrified of what might happen. Exposing myself could shatter this image I've crafted." Her expression softened. "But what if that image isn't who you really are? Hiding behind it can prevent you from experiencing true connections." In that moment, Jack felt the tremor of realization. The masquerade he clung to was isolating him, restricting him from the genuine interactions he craved. What would it mean to break down that wall? Could there really be strength in vulnerability? As he began to articulate those buried emotions, his regrets, his fears, his hopes, he felt a peculiar release, akin to releasing a tightly held breath. The conversation flowed, unfurling like the petals of a blooming flower, revealing pieces of himself he had kept under lock and key, but as the sun began to dip below the horizon, a surge of doubt rushed back in, tainting the moment. Would this exploration of vulnerability lead to deeper ridicule, to confrontation with his worst self? What if the past he so desperately wanted to confront turned out to be a mirror reflecting the vulnerability he had sought to escape? Jack's heart raced, fraught with the tension of his evolving realizations. The shadows loomed ever larger, seeming to conspire against him. Yet, a whisper of hope intermingled with dread. Confronting his past could illuminate a path forward. More than professional success hung in the balance now, his very identity teetered at the precipice of transformation. Would he have the courage to face whatever dark truth lay waiting for him? Every uncertainty coalesced into one profound question lingering in the air. The time had come to face himself wholly, but would he embrace the journey or retreat into the safe confines of solitude? The morning after his reveal with Sarah, Jack awoke with a knot of apprehension tightening within him. The sun streamed through the window, casting patterns of light across his bedroom, but it felt burdensome today. The question of vulnerability loomed larger than life, a reminder of the fragile ground he was now traversing. As he prepared for work, Jack felt the weight of the invisible armor he usually donned. Would he carry it with him today, or was it time to lay it down? The commute felt longer, each stop echoing his inner turmoil. He glanced at his reflection in the train window, a face marked by uncertainty, yet holding hints of resolve. This day, he resolved, would not be just about tasks and deadlines. It had to mean something more. At the office, he found the atmosphere charged with the usual buzz, yet he carried the newfound clarity gleaned from his conversation with Sarah. As he stepped into his cubicle, he scrolled through his emails but found his focus drifting. The words blurred, and their significance faded in the face of his internal dialogue. He had to confront his fears, not just about vulnerability but about authenticity in a world that prized success over sincerity. Lunchtime arrived, and Jack, usually content to eat alone, found himself drawn toward the cafeteria. A part of him craved connection, yet another part screamed for the familiar solitude of disengagement. With effort, he stepped inside. "Hey, Jack. Mind if I sit?" It was Don, his manager, a cheerful grin plastered across his face. Jack nodded, and they exchanged small talk about the recent projects. Yet, as Don talked, Jack felt the familiar disconnect surge within him. How was he expected to engage in this easy banter when he faced down deeper truths? But just as he was about to retreat deeper into himself, he noticed a group across the room, laughing and engaging in discussion, something genuine, something real. The envy rippled through him. They spoke freely, no facade necessary, just friendships born of mutual honesty. He felt a pang, recognizing his own self-imposed barriers isolating him from that warmth. Through a shared voice in his mind, he realized he could choose to respond differently. Could he join them? Walk toward vulnerability in public spaces, even if it made him uncomfortable. Taking a deep breath, he stood, and his legs felt the weight of every decision he had hesitated to make. Stepping toward the group, a paralyzing knot of fear coiled in his stomach. Yet, the rush of resolve surged through him. This moment could mark the turning point. What if he revealed a fraction of his authentic self? "Mind if I join?" he asked, the tremor in his own voice surprisingly grounding, allowing him to feel human. They welcomed him into the circle, and he sat, leaving behind the echoes of his past. As they exchanged stories, Jack felt the pressure of his internal conflict begin to lift, that knot unwinding slowly. He shared a brief anecdote about a recent trip, carefully avoiding the darker shadows. Yet with each laugh and shared smile, he felt lighter, more at ease. It was exhilarating, liberating even. But just as quickly, a flicker of doubt crept in. Was this moment sustainable? Could he maintain this newfound openness over time, or was it just a fleeting encounter? Would the shadows return to claim him? After the lunch ended, Jack returned to his desk, feeling the exhilaration of unexpected connection buoy him up, yet the gnawing doubt still fed the shadows lurking at the periphery. Today had offered a glimpse of the warmth he craved, but could he continue to dismantle the walls? The afternoon slipped away, punctuated by the genuine conversations he'd engaged in. Finally, as he prepared to leave for the day, Jack made a decision that startled him. He would reach out to Sarah later, not just to reflect on their previous meeting, but to discuss what lay ahead. A road into deeper territory that demanded both courage and clarity. As he stepped into the cooling evening air, he felt as if a journey was beginning. This was a path wrought with both hope and uncertainty, yet he couldn't turn back now. The thought flickered at the edges of his mind: what would he discover if he fully committed to this unexplored territory of his identity? But before he reached his apartment, he received a surprising notification on his phone: an invitation to a networking event from his company next week, a chance to not only showcase his expertise but also the new openness he was cultivating. The stakes felt higher, the expectations daunting. Could he embrace this opportunity as a chance to further explore his authentic self, or would he retreat back into the comfort of his carefully constructed facade? The path ahead darkened slightly, filled with possibilities that could shake the very foundations of his existing life. Would he rise to the challenge, or succumb to the familiar? The morning arrived with a promise of new beginnings, yet the anxiety that Jack felt was palpable. He sat at his kitchen table, a cup of coffee cooling beside him, lost in thought about the networking event. Should he approach it as another checkbox in his career, or as a chance to delayer the facade he'd worn for so long? He stared at his reflection in the dark glass of his mug, contemplating the chasm between who he was and who he wanted to become. The moment with Sarah echoed in his mind, their honesty, their laughter. It lingered like a hint of sunlight after a long winter. As the clock ticked closer to his work departure time, he seized an impulse. He grabbed a notebook and scribbled themes that stirred within him: authenticity, ambition, vulnerability. These were the traits he wished to embody, yet here he found himself tethered by self-imposed limitations. The contradictions felt heavy, the paper thick with the pressure of unactualized potential. When he entered the office, his heart raced. Today, he wouldn't simply run the race of daily tasks, he would redefine the landscape. Jack took a few moments to regroup, inhaling deeply before emerging from the cocoon of safety that his cubicle provided. He had to be active, not just in his work, but in his pursuit of connection. During the morning meeting, he surprised himself. Instead of the typical nods and careful remarks, Jack raised a question about the team's goals for the quarter. His voice was steadier than he expected. Engaging his colleagues in conversation felt like a wilderness adventure, each word an exploration of uncharted territory. "Why does it feel like we're only about metrics?" he asked boldly, pushing past the surface. "What if we started finding ways to incorporate our individual strengths into our projects?" The initial surprise on his peers' faces was soon wiped away by nods and murmurs of agreement. With this, seeds of a new dynamic began to take root. He could see sparks of inspiration igniting in their eyes shared as they explored the depths of their capabilities together. This collaborative synergy awakened a part of him that had lain dormant for too long, and with it came a fierce determination to not let it go unnoticed. As lunch approached, he felt a pull to reach out. Instead of defaulting to solitude, he invited his colleagues to join him. The invitation felt like a leap, an act of bravery that terrified and delighted him simultaneously. Would they accept? His instincts battled with the thoughts that had haunted him far too often. "You coming, Jack?" Emily, a member from marketing, inquired with a smile that felt infectious. "Yeah, let's go," he replied, feeling the tension ease as the prospect of shared camaraderie awaited him. Over lunch, as they swapped stories and laughter echoed around them, Jack realized that the warmth he'd envied previously was within reach. He felt energy coursing through him. These were people who could become allies, friends, and support in his journey toward authenticity. Gradually, he began to share bits and pieces about his life, mindful that he wasn't yet ready for full transparency but daring to tiptoe into vulnerability. "You know," he confessed nonchalantly, "I always avoided networking events. They felt so forced." Their responses were encouraging. Stories emerged, revealing that many felt the same discomfort, a mutual understanding building trust among him and his colleagues. As the week spiraled closer to the event, Jack's resolve only solidified. He decided he wouldn't just attend a networking function but would use it as a platform to take yet another step toward authenticity, sharing his journey, the struggles, and embracing the narrative that shaped him. That evening, while drafting thoughts for the upcoming discussion, the notification from Sarah pinged on his phone. A jolt surged through him. Would they delve deeper into their conversation, or would it veer into uncertain territory? Hidden beneath the anticipation was a fear that gripped him. Could he balance this evolving sense of self while forming connections that went beyond the surface? The crossroads loomed closer with each decision. With clarity fueling his thoughts, he began typing a response to Sarah, reaffirming their bond while also hinting at a vulnerability he'd yet to embrace fully. "If you're up for it, I'd love to explore this together," he wrote, the words feeling both daunting and liberating. Yet one thought lingered uneasily: what if this new clarity wasn't sustainable? The crux had arrived, and a flicker of doubt reminded him that every step into authenticity came with risks. Would he find the courage to pursue this unfolding narrative, or would he retreat into the comfortable shadows of the past once more? Jack approached the networking event with a heart full of hope and a mind buzzing with a mix of determination and anxiety. As he stepped into the upscale venue, the chatter of conversation enveloped him like an embrace, both inviting and overwhelming. He paused at the entrance, adjusting his posture, a deliberate choice to embody the confidence he had begun to cultivate in recent weeks. No longer encumbered solely by his past identity, the man who had walked away from isolation and into connection felt invigorated by the possibilities ahead. The atmosphere buzzed with electric energy as he scanned the room, spotting familiar faces. Instead of withdraw, he approached a group discussing their aspirations. "Mind if I join?" he asked, the tremor in his voice now a testament to his eagerness rather than shyness. Their warm welcome surged through him like a tonic for his earlier doubts. Engaging with his colleagues felt surreal. He was no longer a mere observer hiding behind corporate jargon. Jack shared anecdotes about his journey, the struggles with vulnerability he had embraced, and the profound realization that authenticity fueled deeper connection. Their eyes sparkled with interest, and in those moments, he felt the invisible walls that had once encased him dissolve, each shared story echoing his sentiment of collective growth. Yet the most pivotal moment arrived unexpectedly when he noticed Sarah across the room, her eyes bright with encouragement. With her presence anchoring him, he took a deep breath and called for attention. "Hey everyone." Jack's voice carried over the din, and for the first time, he felt the absolute power of vulnerability. "I want to share something that has changed my perspective. Recently, I've realized that true fulfillment comes from embracing our authentic selves." The impact of his words rippled through the crowd, and as he revealed more of his journey, the conversation spiraled into deeper territories. Colleagues began to share their own tales of overcoming fears, of stepping toward uncharted paths, and of the liberation that exposure brought. They recognized pieces of their own struggles in his narrative, and together, they opened a dialogue that sought connection over superficiality. By the end of the evening, the stark difference between who Jack had been and who he had become illuminated the room. This was not just a networking event, it was the birth of impactful relationships fueled by openness and sincerity. As he walked away, laughter and camaraderie echoed behind him, and he felt a newfound lightness, one that came not only from the triumph of being seen but from seeing others in turn. Reinvigorated, Jack stepped outside into the night air, the cool breeze brushing against him, a reminder of his purged previous identities. In making connections rooted in authenticity, he had conquered fears that had shackled his spirit for years. The shadows of his past receded, they no longer loomed as injuries needing concealment, but rather experiences that shaped him. With his phone buzzing, a message from Sarah blinked on the screen. "I'm proud of you. Want to chat about everything we explored?" The invitation warmed him from within, the intertwining of their journeys further illuminating the chambers of his heart. Responding was not just mere affirmation of his journey, it was an acknowledgement of the transformation they had begun together. "Absolutely. I'd love to share," he typed, the thrill of honest communication coursing through him. As he walked towards the direction of their meeting point, Jack realized he had fully embraced the extraordinary spectrum of life, its vulnerabilities and its exuberance. He didn't just want to understand himself in isolation, he craved building robust relationships where everyone could thrive, challenge, and grow together. Today marked not just a professional breakthrough but a personal renaissance, that he had established a new paradigm where pride was rooted in authenticity rather than in material success. Jack had conquered the insecurities that had lingered at the edges of his existence and achieved profound personal transformation. In the echo of collective experiences shared, he knew he was no longer chained by the expectations of his past. As he took those final steps towards Sarah, Jack felt not only a sense of accomplishment but a solid confidence in his newfound competence, both as a professional and as a person embracing all facets of humanity. This moment was his declaration of independence from rigid expectations, an affirmation of his place in the world, and a commitment to living life as his true self. Now is the moment to act. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you won't miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support greater storytelling. Comment below your reactions and theories about this compelling conclusion. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this moment of transformation. Don't wait even one more second to share.